Welcome to another marketing strategy session. Talking with Jonathan from MindMeld, and he's going to talk about something that all of you fear, and that's PR. We're going to talk about PR and how it's changed over the years and how you can effectively integrate it into your marketing strategy and into your content strategy. So, Jonathan, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Now, you know, we all fear PR because remember back in the days with PR, you had to know somebody and write really press releases were so difficult to write. They had to be in a certain format and everything had to be done just right, just for you to get a placement into a publication. How has that changed over the years?
Well, Jeff, that's a great question. And the short answer is it has gotten easier, a little bit.
Yeah.
So let me break it down for you. Number one, actually to kick off, a lot of people think that public relations is effectively all about the relationships. And in fact, you cannot get your foot in the door without already having connections to journalists and having a name, and that's not true.
It's in the name, Jonathan. Public relations is in the name.
Yes, so I can see how people would get confused. The thing is, it takes time to build up a relationship, and I have to say, it can help to have those relationships already set up. But if you're just starting out from nothing, you've just started putting together a media list of reporters who might be friendly to your kind of story, the kind of message you want to put out, and you don't actually know anyone, you can still be successful having a solid, a killer subject line that effectively substitutes as a news headline that they can just copy and paste if it's that good. Answering their questions, their 5 W's, just making sure that you don't mess around with, you don't get too cute. You show them the actual story and you show them why it's relevant to them. So I like to say that having an established relationship with journalists gives you an extra 5 seconds. They will look at your subject line a little bit harder. They might read an extra paragraph of your media pitch.
Okay.
You really, even if you've got a great relationship, you're best friends with a reporter, they will not use your stuff unless it answers what they need.
Okay. And how does that change when it comes to now? Journalists are a little different because, before it used to be the publication had their list of dedicated 8-hour full day, employee journalists. Now it's more freelancers. You have blogs now that are in the mix. You have different sources. So it's a little different when it comes to the actual journalists, as outsourcing the content is a lot more accepted now.
So I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's another reason why PR has gotten easier, or at least I can say you get more bang for your buck. There are so many more publications now you can get into, and whether it's a podcast, a blog, as well as traditional media. So if you're willing to do a bit of research to expand your list, look for niche opportunities, what you want to find is a kind of a publication, and I'm using that whether it's TV, radio, newspapers, magazines, whatever. You want to find something that is actually reaching the audience that you're trying to reach. So, for example, If you're selling a, let's say, I don't know, you got a plumbing business,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you'd want to get into trade magazines, and it might in fact be far more useful for you to have an interview talking about how-tos of, you know, how to fix this or that
Mm-hmm.
in a trade magazine or in a fairly niche blog than in a national magazine or
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, it's where your audience's actual eyeballs at.
Okay. Okay. So really, if you understand your audience and you understand where they go to consume information, which brings up a whole new thing with I guess you would say the dawn of social media. Before the internet or before social media, basically whoever pushed message won the game because it was the only message that you knew because it was always in your face. But now everybody can research on their own. So as they do research on their own, the way they trust content and information is different because they do a lot more research and due diligence. And if you're in that particular blog or podcast or media source as an authority in that source, then that trust factor goes up versus you have to be in the New York Times or you had to be in some of those other sources that, were basically, if you weren't a big brand, was very hard to get into.
Oh yeah, yeah. The gatekeepers of the media, you know, in a sense, they kind of don't matter anymore because there's so many media outlets now that you can reach out to,
Mhm.
and so yeah, I think there's, like I said, it's easier to get your message and story in front of the audience that you want.
Okay.
Um, I did want to touch on something you said earlier, and this was, oh geez, you know what? I just lost my train of thought.
Oh no.
I'll come back to it later. That's
Okay.
okay. That's okay. Um, yeah, I think, you know, one of the ways that I like to, you know, get a good understanding of the audience that is out there.
Mhm.
Again, the tools are Google, Twitter, LinkedIn. If you've got a budget and you can invest in some marketing software, I use Meltwater. There's probably a half dozen types of software out there. They're pricey,
Okay.
but they give you instant access to a global media list that you can parse through and figure out, okay, this is the beat, here's the location,
Okay.
here are the experts, and you know, here are the 500 experts. Let's whittle this down to say 50 reporters that we want to target. When it starts to get that pricey, it may actually be of your benefit to just say, you know what, I don't need to take on that cost myself. I'll just outsource this to an agency, and you know, they're,
Okay.
yeah.
Let
So
them, yeah, let them do it.
that. So I just I know I'm sort of going all over the place here, but I did remember that that point you were bringing up before about how reporters used to be, it used to be more of a full-time gig, less of a gig economy kind of a job.
Yeah.
And, you know, and at the highest echelons, you still have these, you know, the journalists the kinds who get book deals and occasionally, you know, get on TV as well.
Yeah.
You know, obviously those still are around, but because of the economic impact on journalists, and I'm a former journalist. That's what got me into this business. Is I know how to target them because I was one.
Mhm.
And the reason I switched over to more marketing and PR was partly the money was better, and
Okay.
so here's how the economics factor into this. It used to be that you would, you know, if you reached out to a journalist who was well paid,
Mhm.
uh, you know, they would be a little bit less advocates, a little bit more honest brokers. When you get to gig economy level journalists who are very poorly paid, well, why are they doing this work in the first place? It's to make an impact. It's to it is to follow up on their it's to make their values real. If they're into climate change, if they're into whatever is their thing that they're into, that's why they're doing this work now. It's not for the money, because the money's terrible in most cases.
That is interesting. So it's more the mission and less the money. Interesting.
Precisely. So if you do your targeting well and you understand the journalist, you've read a few of their pieces, you've seen a couple of their interviews, maybe you've checked out their Twitter, you get a feel for what actually motivates them. And in that sense, PR is very much, the process is very much akin to a sales process, multi-points of contact, and you want to give them what they want. A story that they can tell that really allows them to, build on the themes that they already love to delve into.
That brings me up to the term newsworthy. So that's how you bring something that's newsworthy, because a lot of times in business, you hear it has to be newsworthy and you don't know what newsworthy really means. So I've seen companies try to do something in shock value to make it newsworthy. Okay, we're going to have a CEO throw a chair out the window. That's newsworthy. Let's do it. But they would do things to say, let's just make something newsworthy. So basically what you're saying is, once you understand the journalist and what their mission is, then you tailor your message toward their mission, which makes it newsworthy for them.
That's exactly it. So you want a win-win. You've got a story to tell about your business, and you're not going to put out the same pitch to every journalist. You're going to tailor it, just like you would in a highly targeted marketing campaign.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. I thought that was a wonderful example, actually, that you just gave. Just sort of, we got to get attention. Let's do something crazy. And there actually can be value in that. That's why guerrilla marketing is still a thing.
Yeah.
But what you want is you want your story to be on brand. So if chucking stuff out of a window is kind of off brand for your company, maybe that's not the thing that gets people excited. There's very many kinds of stories that can get attention. So it could be a product launch, but not the launch. The launch itself is meaningless. Like we're coming out with a new app. Just the newness itself doesn't necessarily make it news. It's okay. Well, so let's build on that a little bit.
Yeah.
So you've got an app. What does it do? What problem does it solve that humans need to have solved for them? What's the is it 10 times cheaper than the nearest competitor and still does an amazing job? Is it leading edge technology? MindMeld PR focuses on the tech sector. So a lot of the stories we're building are around, well, this is some aspect of leading edge innovation in artificial intelligence or Internet of Things, or we're trying not just to insert buzzwords or jargon there, but those keywords do help the reporter target in on, I've covered AI in the past. I would cover AI again. Okay, what is special about your AI? Oh, it's built from cats brains. Okay, that's interesting. That's a big take.
Yeah. And we're pet lovers, so hey,
So the how this I think I just wanted to emphasize that, you know, the broad theme of what we're talking about here today is integrating your PR with your overall marketing efforts.
Okay.
So, you know, your message should be on brand. With PR, you can you can try some creative approaches, but you know, you do want to reach out to journalists with a story that ideally you can repurpose, adapt, recycle for your other marketing channels.
Okay. Yeah.
So, if sorry, I think I want to. Can I delve into some of the more practical aspects of
Yes,
this?
definitely. I was about to say that that's a good segue into that.
Hmm. So, what we do, and I don't know that. Well, okay. Let me run through what a PR agency might do. Or an internal PR person might do. So, proactive PR, brainstorming on press releases, pitches, um, and you know, doing media targeting, doing follow-ups with reporters. That's all proactive PR. Reactive PR is subscribing to certain newsletters that reporters will contribute to. Have you heard of Help a Reporter Out?
Oh yes, yes.
Okay, okay.
I'm a member. I have it coming in my inbox every day.
Yeah, so there's a number of services like that that we use, and so we're looking at 100 different pitches from reporters around the world, and well, mainly in the U.S. Who, you know, I love that service. It's kind of like you got a reporter knocking on your door with, you know, here's the story I'm working on. Here's the questions I want to ask. Here's the kind of expert source I'm looking for. Here's my deadline. What do you got for me? And if you don't leave them just hanging at your door all day long, if you actually do get back to them fairly quickly with something original, maybe a bit edgy, but factual and actionable, they will often use that.
Yeah.
So there's proactive PR, reactive PR. You might generate thought leadership, and so a PR person is constantly creating content.
Okay.
They're creating press releases. They're creating pitches for Harrow, and they're maybe they're ghostwriting or editing thought leadership pieces from the founder, that type of thing. After a few months, you've got a library of dozens of high quality, well, hopefully high quality pieces that, you know, good enough to get in front of a journalist, and therefore probably good enough to get in front of your customer as well, with some very light editing and adaptation. It's quite common for our clients to simply, you know, they raid our archive of pitches and press releases routinely, looking for, oh, we can use this for our next sales campaign. This is great messaging right here.
Okay. So you can use it in creative, you can use it in blog posts, you can use it in social posts.
Yeah.
So basically you're just repurposing that. And even like if you get creative, videos, things of that nature. So you have talking points based on that. So you can repurpose it in several different ways to make it your content moving forward.
Yes, absolutely. So that is it's a cost-effective and valuable approach to PR where you're not siloed off from other parts of marketing and sales, and it's all integrated.
Yeah.
Because so much of the marketing and sales process today is about content. So
yes,
why not just, you know, if you've got quality stuff, let's circulate it around. If you've got you know, so you've got a PR person, you've got a marketing manager. If, you know, two people can do amazing things with this stuff.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because honestly, a lot of times if you think about, or at least I can speak from my own vision when it came to PR, it was it was a person, they had a cup of coffee in one hand, a cigarette in the other, and they're off in like a closet-sized room, and they're just in their own little world with a typewriter just all day, talking fast. We need this out. And that's all you think about PR. You don't think about it being integrated into your other aspects of your business. And that comes from TV. It comes from watching old shows with, the Dick Tracy type of thing, where they had the cap and they were just fast talking, fast paced, But that still is in our heads when it comes to PR. You don't think of PR as these are our content creators. These will be the people that work with other aspects of our marketing team, helping them with creating the type of message because they know words. That's what they do. They're a wordsmith, versus somebody else that may be let's say a social media manager. Their words are different because you only have so much real estate that you can write about. So it's not as in depth. You're really just hitting punchlines and that's it. So it's different, but you can take punchlines from a press release or from a piece of PR content. It's hard to take a punchline and make that your entire marketing content. You can only write so much from a punchline.
That's right. That's right. So that's exactly how it's done. And, when it's working well, and people are talking to each other and you're not siloed off, amazing things can happen. This is actually, outside of PR, like I remember my first real marketing job, and we were siloed off at that time from sales. Who, sales was supposed to be on the phone, using scripts, talking to customers. And the only time I would ever actually talk to the sales department, who were literally 6 feet away from me, just at another cubicle. And the only time I would talk to them is they would get a heads up from their boss. They had a new campaign. And maybe 10 minutes before they wanted to do a new campaign, they'd be like, so Jonathan, you need to write up a sales letter for us. And I'm like, what's the context? I have no idea what you guys even do. It was so weird. So yeah, in every place where I've worked as, prior to starting my own agency, I would work internally in marketing or as a consultant. And I always made sure after that, the silos have to come down, the walls have to come down. We have to be talking, we have to be collaborating. And it doesn't have, I'm not talking about like like having lots of meetings, wasting a lot of time, just talking, just as something as simple as setting up communications on Slack, pinging in when you need to. Okay. When you've got something new, that's enough to help get things going. And then having some routine, maybe a check-in like once a week or something to make sure you're not missing anything. Okay.
Now, when you're putting together these campaigns, do you have like an editorial calendar, or you map out and say, okay, for the next quarter, these are some things that we want to touch on. This is what's going on in the world. So these are some things we might can, especially since you brought to light, it's about the mission. So these are some things that we want to, touch on. I heard somebody said that they were COVID-19. I know of myself, I've seen so many emails come through with the jargon COVID-19 had nothing to do, and it's like, come on, this has nothing to do with COVID-19. COVID-19, we're selling towels. Really, towels? What does that have to do with COVID-19? Well, you're sitting at home, you need towels, so it works. It's like, how do you do that? I mean, how do you set your editorial calendar? How do you actually put together a strategy around it versus, like you said, 10 minutes before a launch, hey, we just need something written up?
You know, that is such a great question. And the answer is that you can schedule some things, and some things just happen and you have to adapt.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. So I worked for a time with a fintech company. They had a new way of investing. Um, and in Canada, at least, which is where I'm from, I'm on the West Coast. Uh, in Canada, at least, uh, I would say 80%, possibly more, of all regular investors like you and me, not necessarily investing in the stock market, but you would put away some every year,
Mm-hmm.
invest in a vehicle called RRSPs, registered retirement savings plans. I'm sure you have something similar in the States.
Mm-hmm.
So the deadline for investing in RRSPs is, there's actually two deadlines. There's end of the year, so December 31st, and then there's also, I think it's March 1st or something like that. So every year we would put out a campaign press release and adapted pitches for different niches to investment and financial focused reporters. Every year we would put out a campaign around say mid-December, or actually a little earlier than that, because you don't want to catch reporters when they're actually on Christmas vacation.
Yeah.
And then actually the bigger campaign was actually the March 1st deadline, because
Okay. Is that around tax when the
you,
taxes have to be in?
exactly. So you would, every year around the same time, you would see a flurry of stories around investing in your RSPs. So people's eyeballs and interests are going to be on this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, let's figure out what is the information they need to know.
Okay.
So there's a few ways to do this. You can do like a how-to. So here's 5 things that you didn't know about investing in your RSPs, how to get the best return on your investments, that kind of story. I remember my last campaign had something to do with something like the 5 things that it was something like the 5 crazy things that investors do
Okay.
with their, and so this, for example, getting very micro on this, the one of the tips was, they, well, number one, they do this thing of throwing all their money into their RSPs at one time of the year,
Mm-hmm.
and when it's maybe not the best time to invest, when because if everyone's throwing their money into the market at once, the market is artificially high,
Yeah.
and now you're basically buying an asset at a high price,
Yeah.
instead of
Interesting.
waiting for when things are low, buy low, sell high. Anyways, so with any kind of company, there's going to be certain things probably where it's going to be advantageous to get your story out about the thing that your customers are going to be interested in
Mm-hmm.
at certain times of the year. The flip side of this is there are times when you want to engage in newsjacking, and that sounds I don't know that it's going to be a familiar term to your viewers, but the
Yeah.
idea
Explain it.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, the idea is you suddenly see there's some story that everyone is following, and you can
Yep.
latch onto that in some way. And so a great example was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, if you got onto that bandwagon very early, and you put out a story around corporate social responsibility, as one of my clients did,
Mm-hmm.
what they were doing to protect their workers. Another one of my clients put out a release on, well, actually, they had 2 releases. One, just how their software helped emergency workers and frontline health service people to stay in contact and just ensure there were no communication hurdles or hiccups that could actually wind up causing patients harm. So their software would help people to deal with that. And that actually, until they came up with a special offer that was actually COVID related, what we were doing was we were taking an existing piece of information.
Mm-hmm.
Their software always did this, but at this time it was more useful or more worth talking about. And we also got them onto a bunch of lists of like we knew reporters were going to be compiling lists of, let's say, the top software products that are helping people deal with COVID. So we went after those kinds of reporters. So you can schedule some stuff, but some stories you see what's happening and you latch onto that.
And you don't have a big window of time to get into the mix, I'm sure, because especially nowadays.
Yeah. It's like in that funny line from Talladega Nights. If you're not first,
you're not first, you're last. I love that. Ricky Bobby. Gotta go fast. I love that movie.
It's often the truth is it's not a forgiving kind of a thing where you can take your time with this. If you're jumping on a story, you've got to get there. You don't have weeks to prepare a campaign. At most, you probably have days to get in early, and because there's always a long tail of 98% of companies that are going to see an idea and be like, oh, they got coverage, we're going to jump on that. And now you're competing with so many others. It's just like in other aspects of marketing. There's first mover advantage.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, that's a key to marketing. Yeah, and being early adopters of it and innovative. So tell me this. All right, so I always love to do this on my show. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So give us some good, bad, and ugly. You can give us stories, or you can just give us, things that you've seen done that's not pending to any particular story, but good, bad, and ugly when it comes to PR nowadays.
Oh, wow. There's so many ways I can go with this. Let's see. We'll start with the good then. So number one, if, I just like we were talking about, being able to schedule ideas in, create a content calendar, open up a spreadsheet, start, planning out what are the campaigns we can do quarterly, or, it doesn't have to, you don't even have to throw all of your effort evenly into every quarter. I mean, you want things that you're doing, but obviously certain times of year, again, are going to be more important for your business. So do some pre-planning. And this means, again, not acting in isolation. So the most effective PR campaigns, you have input from key stakeholders in your business who actually have interesting information, useful information they can provide. So very often or people on my team are talking to the CEO or the CTO or someone who has specialized knowledge about something. Boring is risky, risky is boring. And so if you're thinking, oh, let's put in this quote and this information that everyone has, and therefore it's safe to insert this into our pitch. Well, okay, maybe it's nice to have, but that's not going to actually get you the win. That's not going to get you the coverage. You have to have something original. So be original is probably one of the most valuable pieces of information I can give, and that a lot of businesses are scared of that because original is often edgy and
Yeah.
contentious.
Yeah.
Again, that's if you want to get noticed, you can't be skulking in the shadows, you know, poking at opportunities here and there. You got to be bold. You got to get out there.
So,
So
Jonathan, you're saying that CEOs need to throw chairs out windows.
that's exactly what I'm saying, Jeff. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can get very creative with campaigns. I think on that note of, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly, I'm going to combine the bad and the ugly a little bit, in that, you know, the reverse of what I was talking about, where you know, I've seen campaigns that actually I have been ordered in you know, some of the first roles, or well, mainly the first role that I had in marketing. I was effectively ordered to create a release about someone who had been appointed VP of the company, and I knew that reporters were not going to latch onto this. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your new VP of whatever in what department in your company. That is not newsworthy. And the reason I realized later what was going on. The person who was a little bit higher up than me had noticed before they hired me, they were looking at corporate news releases from public companies.
Okay.
Public companies have to disclose everything.
For their
They
shareholders.
have to be to their shareholders. Exactly. They have to be utterly transparent for regulatory reasons. And this is why you see tons of super boring, uninteresting releases from corporations that it's like, I don't care that Ned Jones just got promoted to head of HR. Like, so anyways, I was able to put a stop to that, but that was, you know, that kind of thing is, I understand where the impetus comes from. You see what the big companies are doing, and you're like, oh, well, this company's big and successful and has lots of money. They must know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're going for something completely different. So, you know, as a startup, or even just a privately held company that, you know, is maybe you've got 500 or 1,000 plus people.
Yeah.
You don't have to operate by those same rules. I mean, you can't say stuff that is untrue. You don't want to commit fraud, but you have more leeway in the kinds of topics you can go after, and the kinds of, honestly, you can have way more fun with campaigns with privately held companies.
Yeah, it is funny. I call it chasing Amazon. In marketing, whenever I do consultation and strategies, a lot of times that's what they'll do. They'll be chasing a big brand and they don't know everything involved. And so they're saying, well, Amazon is doing this. Well, by the time you found out that they're doing it, first of all, that's an old campaign that probably is 5 to 10 years old by now. And they've moved on to something else that you don't even know yet, but it's being rolled out. And second of all, you don't know all of the things, like you said, they're doing that for their shareholders. They're not doing that for the general public to know. They don't really care. It's just they have to do that. And if you're putting out your release because they put out their release the same way, then, you know, you're just wasting time, wasting money and effort. If you know the whole picture, you know, I especially when I talk with smaller companies that chase these large fortune-sized companies, I'll tell them they have use or lose budget. If you're a small company and it's coming out of your pocket, it's different. They have to spend that money to get refunded the next round. So they may have $1 million they have to blow in the next month. So they'll do all kind of things. Yeah, let's pay this blogger $100,000 to post on his blog. It's use or lose money. Even if they lose big, it's still a win because now that they've spent that money, they can get more money next quarter. If you're trying to chase them and you're saying, well, they spent on Facebook ads $1 million, they might have just been trying to lose that. I worked for a client one time that we had $140,000 we had to spend in the next month. And literally I was like just spending on everything. And it wasn't even a matter of return. They didn't even really care about the return. It was in December, end of year, we've got to blow it. Don't follow Amazon. Don't chase Amazon. It's the same thing. I notice in press releases when we see these clever little pitches and words, and we don't know the whole story. We don't know if it's for shareholders. We don't know if it's because of a relationship. They may, be friends with the publication's journalists, and for some reason they got this posted, but we don't know. So if you're chasing them, you can't be you. And people want to know who you are. So,
well, I couldn't agree more with you, Jeff. That's exactly. Actually, you had some insights there that I didn't know about. So if you can hook me up with some of these companies that are looking to spend $1 million, that
they're out there.
December.
Yes, they are out. Well, let's put it like this: if you look at these Fortune-sized companies, end of the year is the best time to get with them because most of the time they have use or lose money for the end of the year, and they're trying to blow it so in the first quarter they can get the second round of funding. Because here's how it works: if I give you X amount of dollars and you do not spend that money, then the philosophy is this: if I give you $1 million and you only spend 500,000 of it, you didn't need the other 500,000. So in the first quarter of next year, I'm only give you 500,000. You get penalized if you don't use it all. So they're like, well, you didn't need $1 million, so we'll just give you 500,000. And you did such a great job with only 500,000, so we'll just give you five. So that's why they say, no, spend it all, because we want to get funded the same amount or more next quarter.
Well, you've blown this case wide open for me. I'm going to spend the afternoon doing some business development.
Yes. But when you sit in those meetings, that's when your eyes get open. Because I didn't know that until you sit in those meetings and they're like, hey, we got to, and you're sitting there saying, well, we don't really have anything to spend it on. They're like, no, we need to spend it. And it's like, okay. And then they explained it. And once they explained it, it made sense. And it's like, wow. So that's why you have companies that are spending enormous amounts of money on things that everyone else isn't. And you're like, why did you spend governments the same way?
Yeah.
The government. Why did you spend $100 on this pen? We had use or lose money. We had to spend $1,000. We bought 10 pens.
This, it's so funny. I was hearing from a company that occasionally throws business our way that, they were working with a company that had built a website that was basically a one-page website and had thrown a ton of ads at this site, which the site actually, it was a bit more, corporate. I guess it was not quite related to the core of their business. And I kept thinking, it kept rolling around in my mind, why would they throw $1 million at a page? Okay, well, now I know.
It's a different game. And if you're a smaller business and you don't have those funds coming in, you're just going to waste your money. And a lot of times in marketing, you see that. Same thing. I'll talk to people and they'll say, well, I managed an account on Facebook or AdWords, and it was $1 million budget in that ad account. And there's other companies trying to do what they do. And they say, well, I have to spend this kind of money.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it's a little different. I mean, if Microsoft throws $1 million at an ad campaign, they've got so much branding long-term. This is just money they're putting toward it for other things, but they're not doing it. If it fails, it's not going to crumble the company. It's like, we're just doing this to keep on top of mind. But prime example, Coca-Cola. How many software companies have went under trying to do what Coca-Cola does?
Oh, totally, totally. Never, what's the old saying? Good artists copy, great artists steal. So
Yes.
if you're gonna, if you're gonna go all the way, I guess, I don't know, steal the Coca-Cola special recipe, or at least steal their special recipe for success.
Yes.
Okay, but otherwise, don't try to be a copycat.
Yeah.
You're just
And if you,
the only example I can think of where it made absolute sense to be and also ran, and it was just a brilliant campaign. You'll probably remember this. I think it was Hertz from decades ago. They
yeah.
had the we're number two, so we try
Oh,
harder.
yeah, yeah. And even with 7 Up, we're the Uncola. That
Mm.
hey, we're not as good as Coke. We're the Uncola, even though people don't know they were owned by the same people. But it was like, yeah, we're the Uncola. We're not really the best. But if you don't want the best, you can go with us.
Mm.
And it worked.
Mm. Well, this has been a super fun conversation, Jeff. I've had such a blast talking with you.
Yes.
Thanks again for having me on your show.
Thank you. And if you're a tech company and you're looking for someone to help you with your PR, definitely feel free to reach out to Jonathan. I don't know how busy you are, Jonathan, but if you are taking on new customers and clients, I should say, they can reach you where?
Okay, thank you very much for asking. I'm Jonathan Narvi, the founder of MindMeld PR, and thank you for asking about how busy we are. We're very busy. We just added a new team member, and we're always taking on new clients. Honestly, I've never understood clients or companies that put up a little sign on their website, not taking any new clients. You can always hire more people.
Yeah.
Do the work.
Yeah.
Anyways, MindMeld PR, we get media coverage for tech companies. We're based out of Vancouver, but we have clients in Canada and the US. Mm-hmm. And you can find us at mindmeldpr.com. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn. And if you've got an innovative tech company and you're looking to build your brand, differentiate yourself, and add a force multiplier to your marketing efforts with PR, we're here for that.
Great. Well, thanks so much for the information, and thanks for coming on the call. Hopefully everyone's learned as much as I have. Feel free to put in your comments, any questions, any feedback. We love to hear from you and help you in any way we can.